This isn't going to be a typical glad legal update. It's more like a call to action. And I want to argue for pessimism around a glass half empty. Imagine a world in which every child can grow up experiencing and developing their sense and expressions of sexuality and gender without any negative cultural bias or stereotypes. And where no sexual orientation or gender identity or expression of itself has negative consequences in education, employment, housing, medical care, access to public services or accommodation, or in one's participation in any level of government or civic institutions. And where sexual orientation or gender identity has no relevance to personal safety and well-being anywhere in the world, and particularly for those who are young or elderly or in the care or custody of a government. So now think about some of the things we know to be true today. Not 35 years ago, but today. For our young people in school, where the most common slur remains, "Oh, that is so gay." Where so-called comprehensive sex education virtually never includes the sexuality of LGBTQ youth. Where the curriculum is a wasteland when it comes to teaching America's youth about LGBT history. And that doesn't even touch on the epidemic of bullying and more broadly the fact that LGBT people are by far the largest target of hate crimes in America measured by percentage of the population. Peek at the lives of youth who are homeless or are in the care of the state. Between 20 and 40% of all homeless youth in this country, i.e. that's hundreds of thousands of youth, are LGBT. And the prime causes of that? Conflict and abandonment at home and victimization in school. And when LGBT youth end up in foster care or in the juvenile justice system, they are totally misunderstood and unattended to. Let's talk about employment. Fully 60% of LGBT employees encounter anti-gay slurs or jokes at work, and roughly 25% of LGBT employees report hitting the, quote, gay ceiling, being passed over for promotion because of their sexual orientation. And a full quarter of transgender employees report having been fired from a job solely because of their gender identity. For all of our transgender brothers and sisters, the issues are even broader and vastly in need of urgent legal attention. Think of the LGBT elders who are afraid to be out in a long-term care facility, and for good reason, given recent studies. In one of them, 43% had witnessed or experienced mistreatment of LGBT seniors. Think about HIV for a moment. And that's one of the problems today. We collectively have not been thinking about HIV. And while we have been diverting our eyes, bad things have been happening. The CDC identifies 7% of the population as men who have sex with men, and they account for 78% of all new infections, a 12% increase among gay men between 2008 and 2010. And of the new infections for gay men, the highest numbers among young African American men. Think about this, roughly 1,000 teenagers a month are becoming infected, and 45% of them are African American. The most heavily affected population right now is gay males between the ages of 13 and 24, who experienced a 22% increase between 2008 and 2010. Why is it still okay to exclude transgender soldiers from our military? Why do our laws continue to fail to make room for how our families are formed, and thus fail to recognize those whom our children surely know are their parents? And why isn't our country more hospitable to asylum claims from LGBT people from around the world who are harassed, hunted down, criminalized, even tortured and killed simply for being LGBT? Why is there so much credence given to the idea that any person, based upon a simple statement of religious belief, can discriminate against an LGBT person in any way? Even simple things like selling them a cake. We surely have knocked down some huge barriers in the past 35 years. More important, we have created momentum and opportunities to push forward. So let's keep going. Let's keep building on this momentum. Let's take the attitude that the glass is still half empty and be pessimistic for justice and equality's sake. I submit it's our duty to focus intensely on what is missing in the half-empty glass. And we need you to join us just as intensely in that focus on what still needs to be done.